Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening. I believe it's our second Wellness Wednesday. And tonight, our conversation is going to be the brain basics. So the brain's nutritional needs, when, how much, and what to eat. Our presenter this evening is Lesley Baker, and she is a certified holistic nutritional consultant. So we're very, very pleased to have her here on board and sharing her knowledge and information with us. So Lesley, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. It's a pleasure to be back again this month. I'm excited and had some great feedback from last month's presentation. So we're going to go a little bit deeper tonight. And I think it's especially great where we're doing it on Bell Lots Talk Day, and that wasn't even planned. So just sort of a happy coincidence. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about some of the basics about what our brain needs in terms of nourishment. What are the best things that we can do to help feed it, to help improve and balance our moods and help us through whatever we might be going through in terms of brain health. And of course, we are talking about the brain, but it is, of course, something that's very much applicable to our health in general. So we're going to talk a little bit about what our brain needs, what we should feed it, when and why. We're going to talk about how we can nourish ourselves when maybe we're not feeling the best. Maybe we're having a period of some low mood or some anxiety or having a difficult time. We're going to talk about liquids and some of the ones that we love and that our brain loves, and maybe some of the ones that will bring us a little bit lower in mood. And we're also going to talk about some of the things that you can add into your diet, and I like to call them brain buffers. So those might help through some stressful times that we may be taking care of. So Denise is going to have a look at the chat and the Q&A for me, and at the end of the presentation I'll be available to answer any questions, and you can certainly reach me through Denise at any time, and I'll give you my contact information towards the end as well if you have anything else that you'd like to talk about. So what does our brains need? Our brain needs a lot of the same things, of course, our body does. But the best fuel for our brain is whole foods. So foods that don't come in a package, foods that we don't need to have a label for, foods that we know come out of the garden or the sea or the farm or those types of things. Also need water. We're going to talk a little bit about some very specific nutrients that our brain needs, and then some other things that feed our brain, you know, oxygen, rest, and its need for repair as well. All those things there. So we're going to talk a little bit about what our brain needs, but also about the timing and when we need it, right? That's very, very important. Our moods and our mental health really depend on us having food and nourishment at the right time. We want us to be comfortably full. We want to keep our body energized, including our brain energized and focused to do what we need to do and accomplish during the day. But what really, really matters, especially when it comes to mood and mental health, as well as the body, is to keep our blood sugar levels balanced. When we find that we have a dip in our blood sugar levels, that can really affect our mood and our mental health. So having food in the right amounts and a variety to really supply all of our body's needs is really important. So what foods does our brain need? So I like to think of our brain as our car. You know, sort of like our car. We have to give the car's fuel to get it going, right? So the preferred premium fuel that our brain loves to use is glucose. It loves its glucose. It's the main sugar that all of the cells in the body like to use for fuel. The brain is one of them. And in order to get fuel, the most healthiest premium fuel of glucose that you can give it is healthy carbohydrates. So we hear a lot of things these days about low carb diets and so on, and it can cause an awful lot of confusion. But really giving the brain some healthy carbohydrates is making sure that it gets good fuel that it can use cleanly and burn cleanly to really help our energy. One thing we do want to avoid, though, is the more refined or processed carbohydrates. So when we're thinking about cookies or crackers or cakes or sodas or any of those things made with white flours and white pasta, I know those are the things that we love and we crave. They taste good, but what happens is that they make us very temporarily happy and energized, and then we get a crash. Our blood sugar will spike and then it crashes. And what happens, it leaves us fatigued, leaves us foggy, it leaves us frustrated, and it leaves us with cravings for more food. So if we have an unbalanced blood sugar level, you of course may have heard of that, of course, the people that are predisposed or have diabetes, but unbalanced blood sugars really do affect our brain as well as predisposing us to diabetes and Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, obesity, and other lifestyle diseases. It will affect our moods and our emotions during the day. And if it's left unbalanced for a long period of time, it can contribute to depression, anxiety, irritability, brain fog, as long as fatigue as well. Unbalanced blood sugars will also affect what we call our second brain, our gut. We have beneficial bacteria in our gut that make over 70% of our neurotransmitters that the brain uses. So our levels of GABA, which is our calm down neurotransmitter, and serotonin, which is our happy neurotransmitter, will be affected by blood sugars that are not balanced. Unbalanced blood sugars will also affect our sleep quality. Sleep is when our brain goes into rest, repair, and remember time. That's rest that it needs from taking us through our day. It repairs anything and cleans up anything it needs to, and it helps us bring our memories and what's happened in our experience into our longer term memory so that we can learn. Unbalanced blood sugars also lead to aging, both of our cells, our brain cells, and it can damage our genetic material. The other thing that unbalanced blood sugars will do is also suppress our immune system. So if we're stressed, we're not eating well, we're not nourished, our immune system goes down. Not only can we get some poor moods, depression, fatigue, but we can also more likely to get sick as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about carbohydrates, and we'll get into what are the good carbohydrates that we need a little bit later. But something else our brain needs is protein. Protein is the one thing that I find when I'm meeting with clients is that they usually don't get enough of in their diet. Protein is the building block of all of our brain chemicals, like neurotransmitters and all of the enzymes that get stuff done in the body. So it's also a very important part of the membranes of our nerve cells, and it plays a part in repairing all cells of the body as well. So when protein is combined with vegetables, protein will make us feel fuller longer. If we feel fuller longer, we don't get those blood sugar crashes, we don't get cravings, and we have sustained energy throughout our day. So we need over 20 different types of amino acids in our body, and those all come from protein. Some of them are essential amino acids, and we can only get them from our diet. So we really need to have a variety of protein into our diet. So whether we choose to do animal protein like eggs or lean fish or meats or chickens, maybe some wild fatty fish, or if we choose to do a plant-based option like lentils or beans, things like that, it's good to have a variety. So we make sure that we have all of the different building blocks that can be used by our bodies. The other thing that the body needs is fats. Fats have gotten a bad rap, and we need the healthy ones. So by healthy ones, I mean the ones that are not hydrogenated, trans fats, or processed fats. Those are the ones that we find in nature. So it could be nuts, avocados, seeds, wild fatty fish, or it could be from oils that are naturally oily at room temperature. So if you think about virgin olive oil, avocado oil, hemp seed oil, those types of things. When we talk about fats, the problem with hydrogenated fats is that they have taken a fat that is normally liquid at room temperature, but what they've done in order to make it more inexpensively, or they've made it into a version that is more hard at room temperature so it can be used as a spread or something like that. What they have done is they've taken poor quality fats and they've actually chemically added hydrogen to them to make them firm. However, when they do that, they also change that food into a product that the body can't recognize, and it will actually cause damage to our blood vessels, and our brain cannot use it because it's not recognizing it in its natural form. So if we're choosing fats, it's best to recognize them and make them in their natural form that they come to in nature. By adding fats to each one of our meals, either whether it's an olive oil dressing or a little bit of natural butter, or adding avocado to a salad, it's going to make us feel fuller longer as well. So A little bit about healthy fats. Healthy fats is very important to the brain. Our brain is actually 60% fat. They will help build the coating around our brain cells. So in order for them to communicate properly and quickly, I like to think of the healthy fats as what makes the coating like you would have around an electrical wire. They have the black coating plastic that makes them insulated and work properly. The healthy fats do the same thing for our nerve cells. So we get really good communication throughout our brain cells, and there's no misfiring. The other thing that healthy fats will do, they will actually insulate and lubricate our body. So it's very important for our joints. They help keep us warm. And cholesterol is actually one of the component of fats that we need by our body. Many of the hormones in the body are cholesterol based. They regulate our brain function. They help balance our blood sugar. They make our skin glow. They help us have energy. They can work for our sexual drive. And they also work on our ability to tolerate stress. We also need healthy fats to carry some of those fat-soluble vitamins that we get from our foods. So vitamin A, D, E, and K, they require cholesterol to be carried around in the bloodstream to different cells in the body in order to be used. So we need to have some healthy fats in our diet. Cholesterol often gets a bad rap as well, but your body actually makes the majority of cholesterol that's used in the body. It doesn't always come from the diet. The liver will make cholesterol in response to how many hormones it might need, whether it be for neurotransmitters or other functions it does in the body. So it is very important to get good, healthy cholesterol. The other component that fats make up is something called phospholipids. So every single cell in our body is made up of phospholipids. So in order to keep our cell wall stable, to make sure that each one of our cells are doing their regular format, metabolism, and keeping the inside of the cell safe, we need phospholipids for. They keep our cell wall stable, but also make them flexible as well. Healthy fats will also help keep inflammation in the body tamed and under control. So inflammation is a precursor to so many of our chronic diseases, heart disease, obesity, joint pain, arthritis, and depression. We can get inflammation in our brain, right? We have inflammation in the body, we probably have it in the brain as well. So depression, anxiety, trouble focusing, learning disorders, those can all be related back to inflammation. And the other thing that healthy fats do is help us feel fuller longer. So we don't get those cravings, we don't get any binge eating, and we can go with a better schedule for eating. So the other thing that our body really needs, we need to have some water. So water is about 60–80% of our actual body weight. It's the main chemical in our body. It bathes all of our cells and tissues, and it's really essential to our health. We often don't get enough of it, and we don't realize that we're dehydrated until we're starting to get symptoms like feeling thirsty, dry skin, maybe we get a headache or fatigue, but it can contribute also to depression. And it can also mean that maybe our body isn't able to get rid of waste like it should. So we can get some toxic buildup of different waste that can't be released from the body if we don't get enough water. So what I like to tell people is try to find the best water source that you can, whether that be your own well water, your city water. You can filter it at home if you need to. If you want to buy purchased waters, there's lots of companies out there that are much more sustainable these days, and try to get enough water into. What I like to use is a guideline, and this is just a very general guideline. If you calculate your body weight in pounds, take that number and then divide it in half. That's how many ounces of water you should try to aim for every day. You will be a little surprised at that number. It will seem like a lot, but if you get in the habit of drinking that much water, you will really feel a difference within a couple of days. If you find that you're drinking a lot of water, but you're also releasing a lot of water, the great trick is to add a little bit of electrolytes to that water, because your body needs a balance of electrolytes, which would be things like salt, potassium, magnesium, those types of things, and water together. So if we add a little bit of Himalayan salt to your water, or if you'd like to squeeze a little bit of lemon in it, or maybe some other fruits, maybe infuse it that way, that will help you make your water interesting to drink, but it'll also help you retain the water that you are drinking so it isn't automatically flushed out of the body. So when we get hydrated properly, we often find that there is an immediate relief in headaches. We can sleep better, we can think better, and we're not getting aches and pains in joints and so on as well. So that's really important kind of thing. So there are some really specific nutrients that I want to talk about, and these can be sometimes the real little army of workers, I call them, when it comes to mental health. There's some little armies of workers, and they're really essential to brain function because they do hundreds of different reactions in the body. Vitamins are the first one. Vitamins we can classify as either being water soluble or fat soluble. So water soluble means that these particular vitamins, they get absorbed in water that might already be in our foods, but in our bodies will use what they need and they will flush out what we have in excess. So they need to be replenished all the time. So you can think about vitamin C, and some of our B vitamins would be included in this group. The best way to make sure you get a good variety of vitamins is to eat what I like to call from the brainbow. So it's the rainbow that everything is encompassing that the brain needs. So all of the colors of the rainbow. You will get a good assortment of all the different vitamins that you need, and you'll be able to really boost all of the little reactions that need to be done in the body. The other vitamins that we have are called fat soluble. So those actually need some dietary fats in order to be absorbed and used in the body. So when we talked about fats before, things like avocado or getting some good olive oils and different cooking oils into your body, making sure that you have some nuts and seeds in your diet, those will help the fat soluble bodies be absorbed and used in the body. So those are things like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. Those are really important. Now, fat soluble bodies can be stored for a short time in the body, so we don't need to get them quite as often as we do the water soluble vitamins. But in this day and age, a lot of people don't have enough really good fats in their bodies, so they may be deficient as well. Vitamin D, of course, is one of the superstars of those, and that one we can get from our safe sun exposure. So if you get some really about 15-20 minutes of sun exposure, specifically between about 10 and 3 in the afternoon, if you get that on a regular basis, your body does have the ability to make vitamin D out of some. However, in North America, especially in the wintertime, we know that the majority of us don't get enough vitamin D. Vitamin D is one thing that is probably first on my mind for me to tell people to think about when they're having mental health issues. Vitamin D is really special because it acts not only as a vitamin and helps different functions in the body, it also acts as a hormone. And it also plays a part as a lot of our neurotransmitters and the hormones that the brain needs for our moods. So a really important one. So first of those specific nutrients, get a full array of vitamins and minerals from all different sources. Now, the water soluble ones, because I said they can be flushed out, it's good to have that variety, but have it throughout your day as well. So minerals are the other thing. So minerals are like the spark plugs for your car. So those really are another thing that really will make reactions go, or they will shut them down pretty quickly in our body. So the minerals can include things like magnesium, selenium, potassium, calcium, sodium, and there's lots of other little smaller amount of ones that we call trace minerals. So the trace minerals are in general are needed in very small amounts in the body, but we do have to get them in our right balance. The problem that we have right now in getting minerals is that a lot of our foods get their innate minerals from the soil that they're grown in. Now, in general, our soil in North America is starting to get really depleted, both by a combination of man-made fertilizers instead of using natural fertilizers, and also by just overgrowth of that soil. So what I usually recommend is if you can source your vitamins and minerals from fruits that might be grown locally, get to know your farmer, get to know your market, your local market, find out how the vegetables are grown, and they'll be able to tell you what type of fertilizers they use and what kind of care they put into the soil, so you know that your foods are getting some really good supply of minerals. So along with vitamins, minerals, you have to have the variety. So eating a good variety of fruits and vegetables are the key to having that balance. But you can also include other things that maybe you don't really think about in your diet. So some of the sea vegetables, anything that comes from the sea tends to be fairly high in minerals. So sea vegetables like nori, if you enjoy a healthy sushi now and then, you can get a vegetable sushi and one of those wonderful sea grasses or sea vegetables. You can include things like chlorophyll or chlorella or spirulina into your smoothies or your diet, and that will really help with your mineral intake. The other thing I would suggest too is if you're choosing a salt to salt your food, choose a Himalayan or a sea salt, because you'll get lots of minerals right from that source as well, right from the sea. A lot of our normal table salts, those minerals have been stripped out of it. So it's really good to get one of the natural ones. So we talked a little bit about getting some healthy fats. There are two fats in particular that our body cannot make. So we have to get it from our diet. And we call them the essential fatty acids. So these are the oils that keep our engines from speeding up, especially our brains. So where our brains are 60% fat, our body needs to get omega-3 and omega-6 from our diet. Now, these have to be obtained from our diet, and then they have to be converted inside the body for a way that they can be used. So the best sources of getting omega-6 and omega-3 are from cold water wild fish, eggs from chickens, but eggs from chickens that specifically have the opportunity to graze outside, to use their natural pecking ability and get the nutrients from the earth. The reason I also say cold water wild fish like salmon or smaller fishes, it's because those fish actually feed on other smaller fish. So they get their omega-3s from those sources. If we have farmed fish, those are actually being fed pellets that may not have the natural foods that the fish would normally eat. So they don't have the same omega-3 levels as naturally wild caught fish. The other way you get it from some plants. You can get them from flax seeds, hemp seeds. Chia seeds is a great way to do that. Avocados will have them. And then other oils that are naturally liquid at room temperature. So your olive oil, avocado oil, hemp seed oil, all of those. Coconut oil is a great one as well. So you can get your omega-6 and omega-3s there. Now, if you are a vegan or vegetarian, you will be able to get some omega-6 in your body, but your body has to do extra work in order to convert it. So if you do find that you're having trouble as a vegan, maybe you're having difficulty with mood health or your joints or inflammation or skin issues, you may want to have a look to see if maybe your body isn't converting those plant-based omega-3s properly. And in that instance, sometimes it's good to supplement with another version. And there's lots of different ways that you can get vegan omega-3 and omega-6 on the market too. So generally, we will get a fair amount of omega-6 in our diet. We do get some from what I call the standard American diet, or our North American diet that we're used to, which tends to have a lot of processed foods. It's also called the SAD diet. We, over the years, have gotten a lot of omega-6 from that diet. And you think, okay, that's great. I need some omega-6, but the body needs omega-3 and omega-6 in the right ratio. They need it in almost a 1-to-1 to a 2-to-1 ratio. What happens with our processed diet is we get about 20 times the amount of omega-6 than we do omega-3. We're really off balance. And what happens in the body, when it takes in omega-6 and omega-3, it makes decisions about what pathways they get changed into. Two of the pathways that omega-6 and omega-3 can get changed into are what we call anti-inflammatory pathways. So they keep our risk of cardiovascular disease down, they keep our inflammation down, they help our neurotransmitter and our brain health. The other way that it can go down an inflammation pathway. That's what extra omega-6 tends to do. And we want to try to limit how much omega-6 goes down to the inflammation pathway. If we have too much in our diet and too much goes down that pathway, because it's not balanced with omega-3, we can find that we have a lot of inflammation in the body, more than we need. It can affect our brain, it can cause depression, contribute to anxiety, and things like that. So really trying to stay with a natural whole food-based diet and including some omega-3 sources into your diet can really help you with that. A little bit more technical maybe today than we want to know, but it's important to know that we need that balance. So the other really specific nutrient that I like are prebiotics. So some of you may be aware, if you attended our last week's session, we do have a second brain in our gut. We actually have a whole community of bacteria that live in synergy with us down there. We have more bacteria in our gut than we do cells in our whole body. So we need to feed those bacteria. Those bacteria are beneficial to us because they make vitamins like vitamin K and B12, very important to our mental health. But they also make neurotransmitters. They make the serotonin that makes us happy, and they make the GABA that keeps us calm down. So prebiotics would be anything that is also considered fiber. So we need a combination of soluble and insoluble fiber. What fiber does in our body is it helps move any undigested food, any waste, any toxins, and any excess fats or things that our body wants to get rid of out of our intestinal system. It also helps us feel fuller. It will feed those brain bacteria so they can make all of the neurotransmitters we need. So if we choose plant foods, there's a portion of plants that we as humans can't digest. So that's the cellulose portion. Cellulose is a really good fiber for the body. So if we choose lots of leafy greens, broccolis, cauliflowers, whole fruits with the skin still on them, those are great sources of prebiotics to feed our stomach. Bananas that are a little on the less ripe side is a great source of fiber as well. Onions, garlics, whole grains, even seeds and nuts are really good sources of prebiotics for our stomach bacteria. Very important to include those. And now we're talking about bacteria. We're going to actually make sure that we have a good complement of those bacteria too, because those bacteria can die off. They do naturally, so we have to replenish them. If you have taken any course of antibiotics, antibiotics are a wonderful drug that serve a really good purpose in terms of getting rid of infections that we need a little assistance in getting rid of. However, they are non-specific, which means that they also kill off some of the good bacteria that we need in our body. So we have to replenish those. So if you add in some foods that are usually traditionally fermented, those can help feed and replenish our gut bacteria. So you can think about adding small amounts of sauerkrauts, some good yogurts, kefir, which is a grain that has been fermented, pickles, but pickles that are in a vinegar base as opposed to a sugar base would be better. Kimchi, miso-based soups that are wonderful. Miso is like a fermented broth that's very common in Japanese cooking and different broth soups. Kombucha as a special drink would be a great idea. Even olives. Olives have some sort of probiotics in them as well. So those will really feed our second brain and keep us healthy. If you find that you're having a lot of trouble with bloating and gas, what happens is when we don't have enough fiber in our stomach and our food is sitting in our stomach for too long, it starts to naturally ferment as those bacteria are feeding on them. So by having good probiotic foods in your diet, you will help reduce the amount of gas that accumulates and will pass easily through your body. We're going to talk a little bit about kombucha a little later. You notice my comment to say, watch the extra sugar in kombucha, and we'll talk about that when we get to the liquids here. So those are some of the foods that our brain needs, but there's a couple other things we need too. We need oxygen. So if we can breathe some clean air regularly and do nice deep breaths, oxygen is incredibly important to our brain. Our breathing helps expel toxins from our brain and our body, and oxygen is required by all of our cells, especially our brain, to use glucose. And that way it can be the most efficiently used for our brain function. There are very few things that our body actually allows to get into our brain area and cross what we call the blood-brain barrier, because our brain is very special, it's very delicate, and it needs to be protected. Glucose can get in quite easily. There are a few other nutrients that can pass into the brain. We can have some neurotransmitters that will pass into the brain area. Oxygen is another one the brain needs. We have to have our oxygen in order to really rest and repair and get rid of those toxins. So this time of the year, we're spending an awful lot of time indoors. Try to just get outside on your patio, even for 5-10 minutes. It might be cold, but getting some really good deep breaths regularly, taking the time to sit and really mindfully breathe and take some good deep breaths as well can help your brain. The other thing our brain needs is exercise. Exercise gets that oxygen circulating. It also gets the blood flowing to the brain. That way the brain can get rid of those toxins and release faster. And also helps regulate our blood sugar, right? We burn off blood sugar and we burn off any elevated cortisol that we have from stress with exercise. So trying to get 15, 20 minutes at least of exercise into your day is really going to be helpful for your mental health and your mood. So the brain also needs some rest and repair time. So we need to have sleep. Sleep is when we start to make memories. That's where we repair our brain, and that's where we reset it for the next day. It's during that time as well that the brain starts to make new connections about everything that we've learned during the day, and it makes sense of our day and what's happened. If during the day, we certainly need that good sleep at night, but during the day too, we need to have a relaxation return. Our bodies are under a lot of stress these days, and our brain is on high alert all the time. That high alert puts our body into a stress response. It's always on guard and always on line. So if we have a few minutes during the day where we actively sit and try to relax, it will calm our body down, calm our stress response. It will reduce inflammation in the body, and it will help us improve our moods. So taking a few minutes, even if it is when you get home at the end of the day, sit in your car in the driveway, take a few deep breaths, let your day go, and get on with your evening. Set a timer on your phone to make sure at lunchtime that you just sit with your eyes closed and take a few deep breaths and just progressively relax every muscle in your body. Just bring that body and that brain stress back down again. It might go right back up again, but at least you've brought it down for a little bit to help control and give your brain a break. The other way that I think we forget about is play. We have to have some healthy social connections. We have to have some fun. We need to laugh. And we have to actually activate the creative side of our brain. That helps our nerve cells and our brain cells stay young, right? If we're always doing the same activities and so on and not switching it up a little bit, playing some music, playing games, doing artwork, playing music, something like that, we're not utilizing the brain to the best that we can. All right, so I'm going to break it down a little bit because I'm sure everybody wants to know what's the best way to eat and what to eat and when. First of all, I will tell you, I'm not going to tell you that you need to eat a certain amount at certain times, because the best thing that you can do is when you're eating, sit and notice and eat until you feel almost full. If you feel almost full, wait 4 or 5 minutes. If you're still hungry, continue on. I want you to really understand and start to listen to your body's hunger signals, right? The amount of food that we need to take in is very individual. We're each individual people. We have individual metabolisms. Even today, what I may eat on a regular basis may change if I decide to become more active in my life or something changes in my health. So what I can really do is at each meal that I have is sit down, eat until I feel almost full, give myself a little bit of time and say, am I still really full? Or am I just maybe bored? Or is there something emotional that's making me eat? So really start to pay attention about what those signals are telling you. You will find as well that if you eat more frequently, like I'm going to recommend, your body's hunger signals will get stronger. When we are maybe forgetting to eat or not eating on a regular schedule, our body naturally goes into almost a starvation mode. It says, I have to hold on to these nutrients because I'm not really sure when she's going to feed me again. So I want to have something aside here to work with, right? And if that blood sugar crashes, I got to have some reserves here so that I can bring our energy back up again. So our body will sort of tone down our hunger signals, or it will conserve things. But when we start to eat on a regular basis, you will find very quickly that your hunger signals will come back. And when you are ready to eat and your body wants some food, it'll say, okay, let's do this, because it's realized that you are going to get better at feeding it on a regular time. Once you feed it at a regular time, the body will expect it. And the body will say, you know what, I don't need to store on this extra because she's been really good lately and she's going to feed me. So I'm going to be good for these nutrients. So first recommendation I have is when you get up in the morning, have some water. Gets us hydrated from the night before, kind of wakes up our digestive system. If you really want to do a great thing for your digestive system too, you can squeeze a little bit of lemon in that water. That will really prime the digestive system to get going. Your water can be room temperature, it can be a little bit on the cold side, it can be warm, whatever you like. You can have a coffee. I know everybody loves their coffees. One thing, we'll talk about coffee in a few minutes. If you want to have coffee, that's fine. Just remember, there's a guy. Every cup of coffee you have, you should have 2 glasses of water. Coffee does have a dehydrating effect. So if you have 2 glasses of water to every cup of coffee you have, that will counteract it. So some of you may not be breakfast eaters. Some people just do not have a really strong stomach in the morning and don't really handle breakfast well. Usually that is a sign, especially in Chinese medicine, that overnight your body hasn't been as efficient at breaking down and detoxifying and processing all the food from the night before. So if you eat in the morning, you tend to get a little bit nauseous or it doesn't agree with you, just means that your body has still working on the day before. And that's fine. If you can, within maybe 2 hours or so of waking, at least have some sort of protein or some sort of a mid-morning snack, that will at least help fuel you, okay? So in the morning, we've used up a lot of our fuel overnight just from sleep and rest and repair. So our body needs some kickstart and needs some fuel to get us going through the rest of the day. So even if you have mid-morning, if you don't have a breakfast, mid-morning, have some sort of a snack, it'll keep you going until lunchtime. So I would love to see everybody have breakfast or at least something with some protein within a couple hours of waking up. Then in mid-morning, you can have a snack. And snack in the morning, that's the best time to have your fruit snacks because your fruit snacks are going to have some sugar in them, natural carbohydrates, and that's okay because you're also going to get some fiber in it. And those fruits will go into your bloodstream pretty quickly and give your body some sugar to get it going for the rest until lunchtime, okay? But if you're having a full fruit too, you're going to get some fiber to feed that bacteria in the stomach, which is great. And it's going to keep you a little more full. So that's a much better option than maybe having a glass of fruit juice or maybe a muffin that has really simple sugars and doesn't have any fiber. And it's going to really spike your blood too much. Try to have water at your side all day. Whether you put a little reminder in your phone, there's lots of them that you can get now to remind you to drink your water. You can even get water bottles that will remind you to drink your water. Try to keep water at your side all day. Try to eat every 2 to 3 hours, preferably 6 times between meals and snacks over the day. If you make lunchtime your largest meal, mostly veggies, some protein, some fat. I have in this picture here, this is from the Canada's Food Guide. This is a great example of what a healthy plate should look like. We've got lots of fruits and vegetables on one side. We've got a little corner that's got some whole grains and then some nice proteins in the top. So just to give you an idea of what a healthy plate should look like. You may not have all those types of proteins together, but it's a good way to divide up your plate. So make lunchtime your largest meal. Lunchtime, you still have a large part of your day ahead of you, so you need to have some good nutrients to get you fueled and keep your blood sugar steady throughout the day. If you do this and you get to the afternoon, mid-afternoon, you might be still wanting a snack. That's okay. Try having a snack of some veggies with a little bit of healthy fat. So maybe some veggies with hummus or some guacamole. And then maybe even just before supper or when you're ready to leave the office, maybe something with some fat in it, like nuts or protein or a hard-boiled egg. 1 or 2 snacks in the afternoon will kind of help with that 3 o'clock slump where we usually reach for the sweets that might be in the vending machine, or we reach for something that isn't quite as healthy. And that will get us going for the rest of the afternoon until we have supper. If you have your supper, make sure that you have it about 4 hours before bedtime. Preferably like an assortment of veggies and proteins and fat like lunchtime. It might not be as big. You know, it really depends on your routine and how you're feeling. But listen to your body. You know, if you're not feeling like eating, make sure you at least have 3 meals a day. Even if you're not feeling like eating, have something, because that will avoid you being starving in a couple of hours before bed or waking up at midnight wanting something to eat. So then if you try after bedtime, try to have a good 8 to 12 hours without any food. That will give your body time to reset, to process, to repair, and really help break down anything it's stored, any fats or anything it needs to get rid of. So that will help too. So by sort of doing this plan, it will really kind of help your blood sugar be balanced throughout the day, and you shouldn't have any cravings for those sugary things that might affect your mood and so on. Okay, so I like to go by this guide. I certainly don't think that we shouldn't have treats. I think treats are a wonderful thing. Treats give us a lot of pleasure. And the way that the body works, it isn't an all or none. The body, if you are eating well, 80% of your time, your body is well equipped. The other 20% where you don't. And unfortunately, in today's society, we kind of have it flipped. It's sort of 20% of the time, we're probably eating pretty good. The other 80, we're not eating enough, or we're not eating great. So if we can flip that to 80% of the time, we do pretty good. The other 20%, we can handle it. So that's the time when you can really enjoy the foods that you love, right? Enjoyment of life and food is also good mental wellness. If we're depriving something that we really, really like, then we're just going to want it more. So accept that invitation for a burger on Friday night with friends, post-lockdown, of course, is also good for your mental wellness. Balance is good for your mental wellness. So by all means, don't deprive yourself. Good. So I want to take a few minutes too. I think we've got a little bit of time. We're doing all right. I understand, and this is from my own perspective of having periods of depression and anxiety when you're struggling. You really don't feel like eating. You might not feel like eating. You might not feel like preparing food. You don't have the energy. If you're really stressed out, it's difficult. So there's some ways that you can make it easier to at least nourish yourself. And first of all, I want you to be gentle with any types of changes that you're putting in. If you even try one thing at a time, then that is a step in the right direction. Build on those little one things at a time, right? If we change 1% of something every day, we've changed it 365% over a year. So 1% at a time is great. One of the things that you can do, and I highly suggest this to a lot of my clients, is to keep a food mood journal. So keep track of your meals. You can do it on a piece of paper. You can do it in your phone, whatever works for you, but also kind of keep track of your moods. How are you feeling? Are you sad? Are you depressed? Are you craving something? Did something really set you off and you reached for that chocolate? Do that, and you'll find that over a week or so, you'll start to find connections. You find connections to say, oh, wait a minute, I didn't eat well this day. The next day I was really tired, or I was really anxious. Or maybe I ate this and 2 days later, my energy level really went down. That's when we find the connections between foods. And you might even find a food that maybe is a healthy food, but maybe you have a sensitivity or an allergy for it and it's affecting your brain in that way. I know for myself, I'm not lactose intolerant, but I have a sensitivity and an allergy to whey protein. So whey protein is one of the proteins that is found in dairy. So I can eat dairy, and I love cheese, and I like ice cream. And when I eat it, I don't feel any reaction. But if I have it on a regular basis, such as maybe over Christmas time and lots of little cheese charcuterie boards, I notice that a week after or so, there'll be 2 or 3 days when I'm super low energy and I've got a lot of inflammation. So I know now that that's that connection. It might not show up right away, but the connections might be 2 or 3 days later with your body. So that's something to keep in mind because everybody's individual. So if we are not feeling like cooking or even eating, keep a list of healthy takeout options on your phone. We know now that Skip the Dishes and all these local food deliveries are very easy to access, and maybe that's what we need when we're times when we're really stressed out, but there's always a healthy option. There's lots of them out there that have different salads, that have different really good protein, veggie bowls, things like that. So there's always options like that we can choose on. I'm really happy to see that we're starting to see a lot of healthier meal plan services pop up. I know a lot of my fellow nutritionists, and I can certainly help for the Moncton area of people that do this, make healthy meals. And it might be if you buy maybe 4 or 5 lunches. If lunch is a thing that you forget or you skip, buy 4 or 5 lunches and keep them in the fridge. And they're made for you. You know they're healthy, and you can grab them. They're quick and easy to have. Your local health food store will have lots of little healthy lunch options for you too. A big thing with a lot of people is forgetting to eat. So put reminders in your phone for mealtime and snack time, in your water, have it pop up so it's there for you. A lot of people are really new to cooking too. A lot of people haven't grown up with cooking. You know, we've had 2 working parents or whatever, and just cooking wasn't something we ever learned to do. So that can be really difficult for people when they're trying to make things healthy. Now we've got more YouTube classes on healthy cooking than you can imagine. So everything out there. There's a lot of nutritionists even that offer services that they will teach or do classes now over Zoom, or even eventually in person again. That's a great way. And it's really good for your mental health to get out and socialize and do those kind of things. There's also some of the meal box kits. Some of them are mostly really, really good. You can customize them to if you're a vegan or vegetarian or have certain likes or not likes. That might be a great idea to start. And it's a great idea to do with the kids too. If you get a meal box and you each give them, especially teenagers, a meal every couple nights, you know, it's their turn to cook it. It gives you no fail instructions to do. Those are great ideas. Time is also of the essence. So many of us just don't have time. That's the big thing. I really like to plan ahead. So planning ahead for me means I usually have a whole bunch of hard-boiled eggs in the fridge, something that I can just grab as a snack. I can make a sandwich out of it or a wrap. I can throw them in a salad. Those are the perfect idea to get some protein. You can go out and get good, really healthy little packages of guacamole, little things of salsa, little packages of hummus. Those with some pre-cut veggies from the salad store or salad deli market. Those are great little ways to keep snacks healthy. I make sure that I have a jar of all sorts of mixed unsalted nuts in the fridge, so I can just grab a handful when I'm feeling a little bit peckish, and that keeps me nice and full. So those are some really good options. The other thing that I do is I do like to enjoy smoothies sometimes. But what I do is when I have maybe some bananas that are starting to go, I cut up all the bananas. Maybe I'll scoop out half a cup or so of blueberries, and I'll put them in little Ziploc bags and I throw them in the freezer. So I just grab my Ziploc bag. It's got half a cup of blueberries and half a banana in it, throw it in the blender with some almond milk, some protein or whatever else I want to use. Ready, done. Don't have to worry about chopping up veggies or fruits or anything for your smoothies. Super, super easy. The other thing you could do is maybe meal prep with a friend. I can pretty much guarantee we also have someone else in our life that would probably like to eat a little better and be a little better at preparing foods. So get together, find some recipes that you both like, you know, do the shopping and maybe prepare it together so you can have fun, you can have some social time, and it'll keep you accountable too. When you're eating out, there are always lots of healthy options. And the other thing is that is also part of that 20%. So remember, you know, I would never want someone to ever say, I can't go out and eat with a friend because I'm trying to eat healthy and I don't want to be distracted. That time that you spend with a friend when you can eat out or get together is so good for your mental wellness. There's lots of healthy options out there. Especially restaurants nowadays, they will indicate on their menu what their vegan options. If you have to be gluten-free, they'll do that. They will more than likely swap things out for you. There's easy to make some healthy options. Absolutely. So we're just going to go quickly through the liquids and lows, and I'll leave some time for questions because liquids are really important and those can really spike our blood sugar and affect our health. Some of the real ones that I like to try to avoid if we can are fruit juices on their own. Fruit juices are basically simple sugars. They go right into our bloodstream and they spike it really quickly and fast. If you have like, you know, a little glass of fruit juice, maybe with some morning medication, like an inch or so worth, not so bad. But when you have, you know, if it's a main fruit or a main beverage for you, it can really affect your blood sugar because your body will spike its sugar right away. Coffee is totally okay. You know, if you have a medium earlier in the day, that's okay. There are some good benefits to a good cup of coffee for the brain. It's the add-ons. You know, we don't realize in our medium double how much sugar there is and how much fats that are not the best for us in there too. So watch some of your add-ons, or maybe try to cut them down, or maybe try some other options like nut milks or stevias instead of sugar or something like that. Black tea. Somebody might be a whole lot of black tea drinkers out there. You know, traditionally in the Maritimes, we like our tea. They can have a lot of caffeine, so try to limit them towards earlier in the day than later. Energy drinks. Energy drinks, I wish they weren't on the market, but we know they are. A lot of them have artificial chemicals. A lot of those artificial chemicals go right to the brain and they stimulate it like crazy. They really unbalance your blood sugar, so really watch for those as well. Alcohol in moderation for special occasions is great. Got to watch some of those drinks because they can be really high in sugar, and of course they can interact with medication too. Sodas are often really high in sugar. Even the diet versions can be harmful because they do have some artificial sweeteners in there that can go right to the brain and act as an excitatory chemical in the brain. They really ramp it up, which can be very harmful. So they also deplete the good bacteria in our gut. And they're kind of, especially the diet sodas, what they do is they trick our brain into thinking it's going to get some sugar. And so the brain starts to ramp up and say, oh, I can do all these things I've been needing to do because I'm going to get some sugar from fuel. But then it doesn't, and it crashes, and it makes the crash further. So it can really exacerbate any focus issues as well. And milk. I know that milk is a big thing, and a lot of us are used to milk. But pasteurization will actually kill all of the natural enzymes in milk. So a lot of people, it can cause some digestion issues, and then it's an allergen for a lot of people. There's lactose intolerance, which is very common, but a lot of people like myself have allergies to the proteins. And if you find you're getting a lot of head congestion or sinus congestion, headaches, inflammation, and skin nose issues, try taking milk products out of your diet. You might be really surprised at how much better you feel. If you do really like milk and you do like to have those cheeses and things like that, try to have some digestive enzymes with them. It'll help your body go a little bit quicker. So these are some of the ones in green that are really great. So water, of course, make it interesting, add some fruit, things like that. Herbal teas are wonderful. They're caffeine free, and there's lots of varieties that have brain friendly ingredients. I love to make iced tea out of my herbal teas too. Green tea or matcha is a wonderful thing. It also has natural theanine. Theanine is a relaxant for the body. It's one of the precursors to GABA. Soups and bone broths are great and have lots of protein. Have some smoothies. Make sure you put some protein in it and use the whole fruit so you have some fiber. Kombucha is a really great substitute when you want some fizz, but just have it in small amounts because a lot of them can have really high sugars. And sparkling water is okay if it's unflavored, but it's not a substitute for water. You have to really watch some of those flavorings. They can cause some long-term bone health issues, and some of the flavorings can be unnatural too. There. How are we doing for time there, Denise? We're doing a few minutes? All right, I'll go through this screen and then we're good. So these are some of my brain boosters that you might want to add in from a good quality source for your brain. Vitamin D especially, you can recommend doing up to 2,500 international units daily. I find this is my #1 health must for the brain. Omega-3, make sure that it's in a dark bottle, anywhere between 1.5 to 3 grams a day. Be careful if you are on a blood thinner, you'll have to consult a physician about that. A probiotic. There are some specifically formulated now with mood health. A B complex is great. All of the B complexes are your energy and your brain vitamins. So those will get flushed out during the day. Take them early in the morning and they help you with your energy throughout the day. And if you have trouble sleeping or you need to relax at night, magnesium bisglycinate is a great one. It really helps your body and your muscles repair, gives your brain some electrolytes and some ions that it needs to do its thing. And if you do want to put a supplement, I suggest doing it once at a time. Talk to your pharmacist or a naturopathic doctor, your physician, or holistic nutritionist at a health food store, and we can help make sure that there's no side effects with any medications you might be taking and help you pick a good one, because there's some really good ones out there and some that have a lot of colors and fillers and dyes that you don't really need. So, but supplements are just supplements. A good whole food diet is what the body really recognizes. And if you work with a professional, you can tailor your diet and your brain boosters to what you need. So yeah, I think that's all I have, Denise. We have any questions? Yes, vitamin L. Vitamin L is the best one of all. Got to have some vitamin love all the time.
Love that one. Okay, so there are a few questions. We'll go back here. Will I get my mouse over to the other monitor here? So we're going to start with Sonia, I think, asked the first one. It seems the more I drink water, the more bloated I get. It doesn't seem to want to leave my body.
Yeah. So that's often very common. So I would recommend if you add a little something to your water, like some of those salts and electrolytes. So even if you put a little squirt of some Himalayan salt in it, or if you don't care for the taste of salt, you could squeeze like lemon or lime or something that has some natural minerals in it. That will help your body rebalance the amount of electrolytes you have. So your body won't feel it has to hold on to water quite as much.
Good. Michelle said that she felt bloated and sick when drinking regular tap water. And what helped was to have a good water system to filter the water, and that it makes a difference by adding lemon or fruit to add flavor.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly. So by adding that flavor with the lemon and fruit, you're also adding in some electrolytes. So you're essentially almost making your own electrolyte sports drink, you know, but of natural things.
Right.
So you hang on to the water. And yes, a lot of natural sources of water may have a lot of heavy metals or toxins or things in it that may not be getting filtered out and your body may react to. So sometimes getting a good water filter for your fridge or for your counter can really help as well.
Perfect. Sonia also asked, what was the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic?
Okay, so a prebiotic is a food or a substance that will actually feed the probiotic or the bacteria in your body. Okay, so a probiotic is an example of some of the bacteria that are already in your stomach. So it's just taking them externally. They might come from food or from a supplement and feeding and adding to that bacteria balance in your body, because we do need to have a balance.
Perfect. Jean asked if vitamins significantly make up for a lack of proper eating.
Vitamins will not. They are supplements. Now, that being said, if I have a client that has a history of really, really poor eating habits, and they are really low on energy, they are really not feeling great, at the beginning, I may get them to take a multivitamin so that they can start to sort of replenish their stores and get themselves feeling a little bit more energetic. Their body's starting to be able to say, okay, I have a little more of what I need. And then they have the energy to actually start maybe cooking or start maybe making changes to their diet. So in those instances, it can be really helpful. What I approach is if someone is in pretty much a good shape to start really making changes to their diet or has some tweaks to the diet, maybe a multivitamin isn't what they need necessarily, because multivitamins are mostly water-soluble vitamins. The body will take what it needs and it will flush out what it doesn't. So sometimes it can just be an expensive detox, I guess, for the body. What I usually do is I will, at the stage where people are starting to make changes to their diet, but there might be one thing that's not quite off with them, or there might have several things that indicate that maybe they might be a little bit low in that, then maybe I'll suggest adding just a specific things to help support them. But she's absolutely right. They're not a substitute for good food. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sonia said that with chronic pain causing insomnia, she can sleep 6 to 8 hours Monday to Friday and sleep almost 12 hours over the weekend. But no matter how many hours, she always feels exhausted. What would you recommend?
That can be really popular and common for a lot of people, because especially with chronic pain too, you're feeling tired during the day and your body is losing a lot of energy just to maintain whatever's happening in the body. So a lot of times that's inflammation. So really working on an anti-inflammatory diet. So those lots of fruits and vegetables, getting exercise that you can throughout the day, and a good omega-3. And it might even be appropriate in some instances to do more anti-inflammatory things like incorporating a turmeric or a turmeric supplement that can help with inflammation, depending on her particular, medication and things like that. But that can often be, and it could be something more severe. I know myself, I had chronic fatigue for a long time from adrenal stress. So what I look at is kind of look at the stress and what's happening and the balance in the body. So sleep can be impacted by a lot of different things, but often reducing the inflammation and just getting some gentle movement during the day can be helpful with that.
Perfect. Sharon said she had a concern with the timelines of when you're supposed to be eating and everything. She said, my husband works from 4:30 in the afternoon till 2:30 in the morning. So his big meal is actually at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you have to sort of break up that works. I understand, like for shift workers, exactly. Figure out what your morning is, for a shift worker, and what your midday was and your night, and kind of break it up from that way, which may mean you may be eating differently than the spouses in the other one. And it may mean also too, on your days off, that gets switched a little bit, but that's it. Just taking that time frame that you have, that is your waking hours, and splitting it up within 2 to 3 hours eating is probably the best thing to do. Exactly.
Okay. Sonia also mentioned she's getting a lot of inflammation in her fingers and feet in the evenings, where some fingers and toes feel so inflamed that I can barely move them. Is it inflammation or arthritis? What would you recommend to reduce that inflammation? So,
well, it could be inflammation or arthritis. It could also be water retention too. We have a system in our body called the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system, not a lot of people know about it, but it's like a system of tracts and vessels that run almost parallel to our blood system. But the lymph system carries a lot of our immune system cells around it, but it also carries fat and water. And its responsibility is to get rid of the excess water that's sitting in our tissues or sitting in our blood, because blood has to have a very specific water balance, and it gets rid of those things and it flushes out. But sometimes the problem with that lymphatic system is it doesn't have any muscles. So it relies on our movement in order to circulate itself. If we're not moving enough, or we're not getting enough circulation in the body, or if we have a little bit of water balance that's off, or a balance of salt that's off, we can get a lot of water retention in our limbs and in our arms and things like that. And one of the greatest tips that I give people is, if in the evening, if you lay down on the floor, put your feet up the wall for a few minutes, and that gets all of that tissue and that lymphatics that haven't drained and haven't gone back up to the heart to get rid of themselves, to start to move a little bit. So maybe that will help a little bit.
That's really interesting. Good. Thank you. Great question. Great answer. Linda said herbal teas can be misleading. Ensure that they're uncaffeinated or caffeine free. She just wanted to make that mention.
Yes. Yeah. So traditionally and in nature, herbal teas typically will be caffeine free. They won't always be labeled because they're not required to be. What I would recommend is, if you see a tea that is a blend, and if it has black tea, white tea, green tea, matcha tea in it, that is going to have some level of caffeine. They naturally do. It will be much less caffeine than in a coffee or something like that. But generally, other herbal teas will not have caffeine in them. That being said, they may have a few other herbs that might be a bit energizing. So if they have things like licorice root can be energizing for some people, and you have to be careful if you have high blood pressure of licorice root. But certainly if you are getting it from a health food store, you can ask anyone there. They can tell you what herbs do what. But generally, if it is an herbal tea, it should be naturally decaffeinated.
Great. Kevin says, thank you, Lesley. Linda said, is it good to take rhodiola?
Rhodiola is an herb, and it is wonderful for a lot of different mood and hormonal imbalances. It can be very good for some people for calming. It can be very good for hormonal balance in some individuals. We do have to be careful with it. Of course, if you're taking any medications, even natural things can interrupt with medications. And you have to also be very careful with it if you have bipolar disorder, because it can cause a more rapid cycling of the bipolar disorder in some individuals. So rhodiola for some people certainly can. If whoever asked the question wanted to reach out with me with more information, I can probably dig a little deeper into it, depending on our situation. But that is a common one, and I may touch on rhodiola in our next presentation. Actually, we're going to dive a little deeper into more specific things for certain mood issues then.
Perfect. Chantel says, so informative. Thank you, Lesley and CMHA. Stephanie says, great presentation, a lot of great information. Thank you very much. Michelle, thank you for the beautiful message. Heather says, thank you. Sonia says, either I'm bloated or I constantly feel like I need to pee, but it's only a trickle.
Yeah. And that can be sort of something maybe with the electrolyte balance in the water. So adding maybe some salt or some fruit or some lemon or something to the water might help that out a little bit, and then helping that lymphatic system too. So walking, putting your feet up the floor ever so often, getting a regular massage is wonderful for your lymphatic system. There are some massage therapists that actually work in lymphatic drainage. So people that have a lot of water retention can be very, very helpful as well for that.
Good. Luann says, great practical information. Julie says, phospholipids or fats, what are some suggestions to help reduce the inflammation?
Yeah. So in terms of fats for inflammation, the best ones I like are really good omega-3. So getting a good omega-3 either in a supplement or making sure that you have omega-3s from chia seeds are a great source of omega-3. Avocados would be great. Nuts and seeds will give you both omega-6 and omega-3. But most impactful is to cut out the more processed fats. So the chips and the pop and the fried foods and the processed foods, things like that. Canola oils and things like the frying oils, that type of thing. Cutting those worst ones out can make a big difference. Margarine, cut that out. Butter is much better for you. I know that's contradictory to a lot of what we said, but those types of things. The other thing, and I call it the perfect food, is an egg. If you love eggs, have an egg. An egg itself, it looks like a brain. It's soft like a brain. It has all the protein you need, but it also has a right balance of good fats, and especially one called choline that will help with your brain health and so on. So that can really help too.
Good. Diane says, I drink canned kombucha. How much sugar content is not too much sugar?
Yeah. So I like to look at anything, and if it has less than 5 grams of sugar, that's good, or less than 5% of your daily intake. So there are some kombuchas out there that are now sweetened with stevia, which is a natural sweetener instead of sugar. Rise is one that comes to mind. It's a really tasty one, and it's still a good one. So that's a really good one. In kombucha, I like to have it as a treat. It's when I feel like something busy and I want some pop, or maybe I don't want a glass of wine, but I want something with that taste. Kombucha is a great one. Kombucha, I find I wouldn't drink it the way you would drink or formally drink a can of pop or something like that, because it can be really high in sugar. Yeah. And when you start drinking kombucha, start very small, because it can cause a little bit of runniness if you're not used to it while you rebalance your bowels. So just start small and kind of work up. Yeah.
Perfect. Kathy says, thank you, Lesley. Lots of information. Shauna says, thank you so much for these presentations. They're very informative. Cynthia says, thank you, Lesley. Very informative and well presented. Nice photos. Edith says, thank you for this interesting and information session. Jean, excellent information. I appreciate your expertise and clear way of explaining things. Sharon says, thank you, ladies. Sonia says, I love to have to know when her other workshops. What is her email? Sonia, just email me. I put my email in the beginning, and I can give you her email address.
Yeah, I just typed it in the chat there too for them.
Perfect. So Vicky says, thanks. Crystal says, thanks. Linda says, thanks. Great new things. Joan says, thank you. Learned a lot tonight. Diane, very informative. Loved it. Thank you. Thank you. There's all kinds of thanks you. Was this recorded so I could watch it again? Yes. I'd love to review the info. Remedy kombucha as no sugar.
Yes, I've heard of that one too. I've heard that there is that brand with no sugar as well.
There you go. Rebecca says, thank you. Lesley just put her information in there. Melanie says, thank you. Sonia, sounds good. Thank you. I really appreciate the workshop. And thank you very much from Gabriella. So just amazing comments. Everybody like me, so appreciative of the information you shared with us tonight. I wrote a bit of a grocery list of things that just 2 or 3 things that I thought, you know what,
right.
I'm going to get rid of the table salt. Not that, like, I never add salt to anything.
Yeah.
The salt that I have here is more for my dad when he comes to visit, you know, because the old people, they gotta preserve themselves.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I thought, no, I'd like to try the sea salt, because you mentioned adding a touch of that into water or whatever to help with inflammation.
You will love the taste of sea salt so much better. It's so much nicer. You'll love it. The other thing other thing I love out there that you can get is something called Herbamare, which is a nice sea salt, but it has a little bit of herbs to it too, and it's delicious as a little dressing or a little savory thing.
Nice.
So it's called Herbamare. It's wonderful. And like I said, it's exactly the way to do it, Denise. Like 1% change. Remember, 1% every day adds up to a whole lot, right? Little tweaks.
Right. And I'm going to substitute my almond milk for I drink cream in my tea. It's the I don't drink milk. I have cream in my tea.
And if you like it a little bit creamier, you can find coffee creamers that are made of nut milk or coconut milk or cashew, and they're delicious. I got one from Silk, the brand Silk, over Christmas, and it was peppermint mocha almond milk. Oh, and it's delicious. I know they have a maple one out right now. They're really good and they taste great.
Okay, so I'm going to try that, because I drink decaf tea. It's decaffeinated. So, and I love my tea. It's very relaxing for me.
Yep.
So I don't want to lose the tea, but I'm thinking, okay, I got to get rid of the cream, but I got to.
You'll find the consistency is really nice. Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, look, I mean, I can't say enough for the information that you've shared with us tonight. Everything was just bang on. Very informative, very thankful for what you shared. For those of you that are still on board, there's still quite a few of us that are here. Wednesday, February 23rd will be the next session. Unfortunately, the last one for a little bit. I might talk to Lesley at a later date and see what else we can come up with. But she will be talking on thinking a little deeper about nourishing mental health. So nutritional deficiencies and common ailments will be our next topic of conversation. So that will be on Wednesday, February 23rd, the last Wednesday of the month. And again, 7 till 8. So free webinar. So so just register and we'll get that going, and we'll have some fun again and learn a whole bunch.
Absolutely.
On behalf of CMHA of New Brunswick, I thank you so much for having shared your information and your knowledge with us and everything. And Sonia, you need to register. She's just asking if she can be added to the next webinar. So you just need to register online, and we'll go from there. So
absolutely. Well,
thank you. That a little emoji. So so thanks a bunch, Lesley. Everybody, is it possible to get a recording of the next? We will record it, and it will be put on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. So you can go right to our website. You can go to the website to register. So at CMHA, it's www.cmhanb.ca. And you will see it under their wellness webinars or wellness sessions. I can't remember the tab.
I think it's, you go to events and it brings up the calendar of everything happening for the year, and that's where I found it.
Yeah, it'll be there, and then you just click on and you'll be good to go.
Absolutely.
So everybody, I wish you all a great month. If I don't see you from now till then, we have lots of other great programs and presentations coming up. We're going to be super busy. Please check out, like Lesley mentioned, our calendar of events coming up, and there might be some programs and stuff that you might want to sign into. Please reach out and let us be there to support you in whatever it is that you're looking for. Have a great week or month, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks,
Take care,
Lesley.
everyone.